record it, and then we'll, beautiful. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to HVRC's overview of the revised Clean Energy Communities Program. My name is Eleanor Peck. I serve as the Mid-Hudson Clean Energy Communities Coordinator with Hudson Valley Regional Council, and I'm here with my colleague, Liz Sun. So the Clean Energy Communities Program is a way for municipalities across the state to earn points for completing actions related to clean energy. There are no match grants for municipalities to achieve when they achieve certain levels in the program. This program is now in its third iteration, and there are bigger grants than ever before, and we're really excited to tell you all about it. Next slide. So first, before I get started, I want to tell you a little bit about Hudson Valley Regional Council, the organization where Liz and I work. We are one of 10 regional councils in the state, and we're one of over 600 nationally. We provide technical support to municipalities across our various programmatic areas that are all listed here. You can feel free to reach out to us on any of these areas. We pride ourselves on providing impartial, transparent, and informative technical support to local governments. Thank you so much to our county governments for their support as well in this process. Next slide. So the reason why we're doing this webinar is because HVRC has contracted with NYSERDA to provide technical assistance to municipalities on this program. CEC coordinators are here to provide you, as the municipalities in our region, with technical support. We connect local governments to resources and toolkits. We work with partners to facilitate your pursuit of these clean energy, high impact actions. So this is the areas in which Liz and I work. So some of you might work with Liz and some of you will work with me. Next slide. There are almost 900 communities across the state that are participating in the Clean Energy Communities Program, and over 100 in our region. The CEC designation creates pathways to lower utility bills in municipal buildings and homes, provides funding for clean energy projects, and now a lot more funding, which we're so excited about, and it spurs local green jobs with CEC project dollars. Next slide. This is an overview of how the program works. It shows how to participate in the program. So first, your municipality completes high impact actions to earn points. We'll go through what exactly those are and how it's changed in this webinar. The more energy an action saves, generally, the more points you earn. And you reach designation levels by earning points to access grants. The more points you earn, the higher your designation level, and therefore the more grants you receive and the bigger those grants are. These grants are now first come, first served statewide. This is a change from the previous program in which each region was allocated a certain number of grants. And this was, the Mid-Hudson region is the most active in the state, so this really held us back, and now we are no longer held back by that. So we are going to be able to achieve a lot more in the Hudson Valley than we have been in the past. So now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Liz, who's going to tell you all about the amounts of funding that are now available.
Thanks, Eleanor. Okay, great. So the new and larger grants are available in this round of CEC with 25 million available statewide. The grant types have stayed the same. So either you can earn a grant for completing a community campaign, completing 4 high impact actions, or for reaching a certain number of points. I'm briefly going to go over each type of grant, starting with community campaigns. So as I said, action grants can be awarded from completing a community campaign. These focus on local outreach and education about clean technologies. So the 3 that you can do are community solar, clean heating, cooling, and electric vehicles, and with the goal of encouraging adoption by residents. The grant sizes per campaign type and tier have not changed, but there is no longer a cap on the number of grants per region. Municipalities can collect points by completing high impact actions. They will then earn designation grants either for completing the 4 high impact actions, which will award them with a $5,000 grant, or for racking up enough points to reach point-based designation levels. There are now more point-based designation levels and larger grants per level. Additionally, with each grant award, of communities with a disadvantaged community have the opportunity to access additional funding bonuses. So before, the DAC bonus grant was $10,000 per grant, but now it has been changed to an additional 50% bonus per funding of a project. So you can earn a DAC bonus also for any grant that is above 5,000 as opposed to the 20,000 and over. Additionally, communities now have a new opportunity to get a free CEC energy study. So if you complete or have completed the advanced benchmarking action, you are eligible for a Clean Energy Communities energy study for no cost to the municipality. I'm now going to give a brief overview of the new point-based designation levels. So you can now earn grants for achieving 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, and 7,000 and 9,000 point thresholds. Grants are no longer going to be offered for municipalities that achieve the 4,000 point threshold. As you can see, from the 1,000 point level, large and small communities will both earn $10,000. At the next level, or 2-star designation, which is reaching 3,000 points, a large community can get $125,000 and small communities can get $50,000. From there, you can reach the 3-star designation or 5,000 points, and then those are the associated grant sizes. This is the 7,000 point level. And then finally, the 5-star point level. And going back to the point about disadvantaged communities, so if you are, if your project is located in a disadvantaged community, you can earn 50% more for that award. So let's say you're a small community with a disadvantage that meets the disadvantaged criteria, then you'd be getting not $250,000, but $375,000 in total funding, which is really great. And just to note that the grant sizes are going to be larger before October 1st of this year. So definitely try and get as much of the actions completed before then. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the high impact actions. So as many of you know, you complete high impact actions in order to earn points and access this grant funding. Well, there's a lot of animation to the slide. Sorry. These are all of the actions that you can complete. There are many sub-actions, and also some of the actions now have sub-levels or tiers, and that is dependent on the level of engagement or completion for each one. Eleanor and I are now going to provide an overview of each action, how to complete each one, and if they were existing actions, what might have changed. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the Build Ready program. So it advances large-scale renewable energy projects on underutilized land. So for example, brownfields and landfills, and it makes them build ready. So it preps the site for private renewable energy developers to ultimately construct and operate on. The Build Ready program carries out project design, engineering, permitting, grid connection, etc. And then once the site is ready, they will put out a request for proposal and then transfer the project to a private developer for project completion. Ideally, the site is going to be about at least 65 acres. So we don't really expect many sites to come out from the Mid-Hudson. But if you're interested, I would encourage you to check out the site eligibility requirements and still send in a site nomination form. And you can get credit in CEC for both site nomination and if the site is selected. But both need to be completed after December 13th of 2023. The energy code enforcement training action is the same as before. Essentially, you just need to have one of your energy code officers attend the training. It's an 8-hour training. Once they've completed it, you'll get an email. You send in that email for action completion. The only thing that maybe has changed from before is that now if you've taken it before 2021, you must take it again in order to get credit. Okay, so the green financing action covers both CPACE, the CPACE program, which is the same as before, and then the new New York Green Bank program. So CPACE is essentially a program that allows nonprofit or commercially owned buildings in New York State to secure private funds that tackle clean energy upgrades in existing and new construction. And as before, you can get credit for adopting CPACE and also completing a project. The new thing that has been added, New York Green Bank, is a state-sponsored investment fund at NYSERDA that's dedicated to filling in financial gaps. It uses public capital to mobilize private investment into underserved green sectors, filling in market gaps and advancing climate change targets, et cetera. In order to get credit for that, you would need to be closing a project under using New York Green Bank projects. So the next one is energy benchmarking. This is about the same as before as well. The only new thing is that free CEC energy study. So in order to access that, you would need to have completed advanced reporting, posted at least the 2 most recent full years of energy data. You need to enable something called Share Forward on Energy Star Portfolio Manager to NYSERDA, and that essentially gives them the ability to share those buildings to be audited. And we can talk about that if you are interested in the future. Okay, the next one is clean energy upgrades and municipal buildings demos. So they've basically combined the clean energy upgrades action with what used to be clean heating and cooling demo. This is going to be, again, about the same. They have now just tiered it. So what that essentially means is there's sort of certain new levels of completion. So before it was just if you hit that minimum 10% reduction. Now you can get additional credit if you're hitting 15% and then 20% as well. And then for the municipal buildings demo, you can get credit for now not only clean heating and cooling, but also if your building is net zero, and also if you're installing a pool heat pump as well. They're also tiering this. So for both, if you're installing some kind of clean heating system, or if your building is net zero, it's based on the size of the building, so your square footage. And as you can see, that is tiered. And so the amount of points is going to be more if your building is larger. Okay, so this is sort of a new action, renewable energy. There's sort of multiple components to this one. The CDG subscription used to be a part of clean energy upgrades. So if your municipality signed up for, let's say, community solar, then you used to get credit for that under a different action. Now it's totally separate. So if you sign up for that subscription, you can get credit for if you're actively subscribed. You just need to submit in a utility bill. Something that's new is that if you are hosting or you own a clean energy generation installation, then you can get credit for that. But it has to have started producing electricity after January 26th of 2021. And then the last one is this new 100% renewable, this is existing as before, the 100% renewable energy, but it has to have occurred starting from 2021 and later. Oh, and again, these actions are also now tiered, so it depends on the amount of energy that is being produced. Okay. So another one that is new is this thermal energy networks. So a thermal energy networks is like a system of pipes that connect buildings underground, and they're using thermal sources and sinks. So think of like geothermal. You can also use surface water and air, and this provides space heating and cooling within multiple buildings at once. We don't really expect many projects to be opening up in the Mid-Hudson region. But if you are interested in learning more, NYSERDA is hosting these community thermal energy network charrettes. and also have a separate program for if you want to submit a potential site. But basically, if you are interested and you want to do a feasibility study, you can get credit through CEC. And then also if you are to submit an RFP. The next one is LED streetlights. This one is basically about the same as before. Okay, and I'm now going to pass it on to Eleanor to talk about the rest of the actions.
Thank you, Liz. Next up is clean fleets. This is a really big one, so we divided it into 2 slides. This is the slide that talks about vehicles. So there are now more categories eligible in this action, and it is also tiered. So the categories now include light-duty electric vehicles, heavy-duty electric vehicles, light-duty non-road EVs, and heavy-duty non-road EVs. There are also tiers to the light-duty electric vehicle category. So previously, you could only get credit for one EV in your municipal fleet, and now you can get credit for more. Tier 1 would have to be purchased. The car would have to be purchased after January 26, 2021. And for tier 2 and 3, you can see my little asterisk here. At least one vehicle in each submittal must be purchased after December 13th, 2023. That's the date this program was released. For the other categories, they have to be purchased after December 13th, 2023. To submit for these actions, we anticipate a lot of municipalities might have been purchasing EVs and are planning to purchase EVs this year. So we think this is going to be pretty popular. You're going to submit a completed clean fleet certification form. And you can reach out to us to get credit for that, I mean, to get that form. Next slide, Liz. So this is the rest of Clean Fleet's charging stations. So the same thing happened here. They tiered it. So previously you could only get credit for one charging station, and now you can get credit if you have lots of charging stations, which is great, and get more points if there are lots of charging stations. So the date of completion is the same thing, the same sort of thing as with the vehicles. The all equipment must be purchased after January 26, 2021, but for tier 2 and 3, one port in each submittal must have been purchased after the PON release date. If you are applying for more than 16 ports, at least 50% must be available for the public's use. Next slide. Climate Smart Community Certification. This basically stayed the same, but there are more points available now for communities that also receive Climate Smart Community Certification, which is a different state program for municipalities. Excuse me. The certification level must be current at the time of application. Next slide. So CCA. CCA, if you're not familiar, community choice aggregation, allows local governments to work together through a shared purchasing model to put out for bid the total amount of electricity being purchased by customers in their boundaries of their municipalities. So customers have the opportunity to perhaps lower their overall energy costs, spur clean energy innovation and investment, and improve customer choice and value while protecting the environment. So this is something that a lot of communities in the Mid-Hudson region have done, and there is a major change between the last CEC program and this current one, and that's that you can now get credit for 50% renewable CCAs. Previously, you could only get credit for 100% renewable CCAs. So now, the cost of CCAs has gone up, and so this was a, understanding by NYSERDA that the cost has gone up, and so communities that pick the 50% renewable energy option, they won't get nearly as many points, but only 500 compared to 1,500, but it's still a great option to choose to move your community in a more renewable direction. Next slide. So county hosted trainings, only counties are eligible for this. So you are probably, most folks on this call are not working for a county, but if you are working for a county, you can work with me. And actually many of our counties have already completed many of these trainings. So the counties they host these trainings for their municipal officials, and they are able to get credit for doing so. These are a variety of trainings that NYSERDA hosts and, brings trainers down to help municipalities. Next slide. This is a new and exciting one, electric landscaping equipment. If your municipality is making the change to electric landscaping equipment, you can now get credit for that in the Clean Energy Communities program. So the way you're going to go about this is a little unique. You're going to submit a electric landscaping certification form that describes what equipment your municipality has. And as long as you can show that that equipment reduces carbon dioxide emissions by 5 tons annually, and the form calculates those emissions, right? So if you say we have one riding mower, it's this size, we have 4 leaf blowers, they're this size, it calculates how many, and this is how long it runs. You count, sorry, what was I just saying? I made a mistake of looking at the chat, which I shouldn't have done. It will calculate it for you. So you'll get credit for that landscaping equipment. Next slide. So this is the last action, and it is a great one. I think I'm excited about this one. So this is a new one, the municipal fleet inventory. So you're going to be submitting a inventory of all the vehicles that your municipality owns. The minimum is 5 vehicles. I have a feeling every municipality owns more than 5 vehicles. You all plow, right? And you have to include all the required 11 categories for every vehicle owned or operated. This is things like the model year, the type of fuel, the MPG rating, gross vehicle weight rating over 8,500 pounds. So this is the same. This was built to be the same as the climate smart action for those of you that are familiar with that. So a lot of communities might have already done this for their climate smart certification. So you might have to redo it though, because the inventory must have been completed after January 1st, 2023 to earn credit. So that is the last action. Now I'm going to pass it back to Liz. We're going to do some case studies of communities we've worked with, and we just to see the potential here, because there's a lot of potential. Next slide.
Okay, great. So I'm going to give a case study of a large community. This is an example one of a community that, I've probably worked with pretty closely, and I get a good understanding of what they've done before and what they might be interested in doing. So coming into this, they have about 1,900 points. So there's a lot of stuff that they can definitely do. If they were to complete all of these listed actions, some of these they have done before, some of these they've planned out to do, and they've completed all of the campaigns as well, they would be racking up to 7,700 points total, which would make them eligible to $960,000 in grant funds.
And next up, this is a small community, but it's a small community that contains a disadvantaged census tract or multiple disadvantaged census tract. So this community was a bit further ahead than that last example. They started round 3.0 with just under 5,000 points. They're planning to complete all the campaigns, and they are going to be eligible because of that 50% bonus. So let's really, if you have a disadvantaged community census tract or multiple, let's really keep that in mind when you're looking at this. They're eligible for $900,000, almost the same as that large community, because they get a 50% bonus on basically every grant they're going to earn, or most of their grants they're going to earn, which is really fantastic. And next slide. The reason why we know this is because we have this really cool tool that we can use. So we invite you to schedule a meeting with me or Liz, whoever is your CEC coordinator, and we can walk you through this points estimator tool. We'll do it with you. We'll do it step by step. We'll talk about what you've already done, what you might be able to do. Oftentimes we know a little bit about what you've done, but you know the most of what you've done and what you're capable of doing. So it's really, this is a great way for us to talk together about how to get you a lot of money. So we're happy to schedule a meeting with me and Liz. We'll put our Calendlies in the chat, so you can schedule a meeting with us whenever you're ready. Next slide. Yes. So this is our colleague Melanie Patapis has been working on the 2021 Mid-Hudson Regional Community Greenhouse Gas Inventory. So she is hosting a webinar in a couple weeks about how to use the work that she has done to get credit in Climate Smart for a community greenhouse gas inventory. So if you're interested, you should sign up for this webinar. I'll put the link in the chat too, so you have it, and you'll have it when you get the slides. But this should be a great webinar, and it's coming up in a couple weeks. And lastly, I'll pass it back to Liz.
Thanks, Eleanor. And finally, we're going to be starting CEC office hours. These will be at noon on Thursdays, and we're going to start them next Thursday, January 11th. Again, we're going to share these slides, so you'll have access to the Zoom link. We're also going to try and include them in our emails, so you can access it from there. But basically, if you have any questions or comments about the new program, we would love to see you there and join us. Okay, and that's all that we have for the presentation. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will now take questions.
Yeah, maybe we could stop sharing screen so we can all see each other while we're asking questions, Liz.
Yeah.
We left lots of time for questions because I know a lot of folks I've been talking to have a ton of questions. Oh, Liz, I don't think you stopped sharing.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, it's about the grid. And I'm wondering, is NYSERDA putting any pressure on the state or the federal government to improve the grid? We have a brownfield in the town of Tuxedo, and the owners of that brownfield are eager to put solar panels on it, but Orange and Rockland lines cannot accept. And I think that's a general problem, and I'm just wondering where the state stands on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've been hearing this a lot. I feel like it's a national problem, right? Not just a New York State or an Orange and Rockland problem. I think transmission is going to be key to meeting our climate goals in New York and nationwide. And it seems like people are coming to that realization, right? I've been hearing more about it over the last year or so, and I think it's becoming more of a well-known problem. I am sure there are people at NYSERDA thinking and talking about this. I think part of that Build Ready program is in response to this. That was one of the first actions. But this is, NYSERDA is not really a regulatory agency. That would be the Public Service Commission. I think, Jim, the issue in Tuxedo would be a great conversation to have with the Public Service Commission, right? If the town or that developer would either, put in, I don't know that it's lodging a complaint, but at least letting the Public Service Commission know that this is something that, this is a state goal, right? Putting solar on brownfields is a really important thing that we should all be doing. But you need the transmission to make it happen. So that's not directly related to this program. This is all voluntary. This is, it's all gung ho. Like let's all do this together. Let's all, move our projects forward. But there are other agencies in the state government that are working on this issue for sure.
No, thank you very much. I asked the question not because it is in your sphere, but because you're so knowledgeable, and I thought that you would be able to give a good answer, which you did. Contact the Public Service Commission. So we will do that.
Quick question over here. Len Simon from Croton-on-Hudson. Thanks so much for the webinar, all very helpful. Very intrigued by the electric landscaping equipment improvement or addition that you've made to the program. We adopted within our village a couple of years ago regulations on gas-powered leaf blowers, and we banned them for about half of the year, and we might actually extend that. But about half of our landscaping we do internally as a village government. About the other half we contract out. When that contract comes up for renewal in the springtime of this year, we're going to put in a requirement, or at least ask the potential vendors if they would commit to electric landscaping equipment. If we end up going with a vendor that commits to electric equipment, would we be able to get credit for that, even though it's not equipment that we would own?
I'm afraid not. I just looked at the document, the legal document, the guidance document for this program while you were talking, and I remember them considering this, but it says NYSERDA will provide credit to municipalities that have purchased electric landscaping equipment. Unfortunately, it's a great thing to put in that contract, and I applaud you for doing it, but I don't think you would be able to get credit in this program.
Well, in fact, on the equipment that we own ourselves that we use, we will be purchasing electric down the road.
Oh, great.
So we'll look for credit for that.
Excellent.
Eleanor, Michelle Lindsay from Tuxedo. So we are now in the process of deciding between replacement of a gas furnace or a geothermal system for town hall. Does that, I wasn't quite sure, is that under the thermal network action?
No, that would not be
Okay.
under the thermal energy network action, but it would be under the municipal building demo action. So you would be able to get credit for the clean heating and cooling demo action. And you would just have to, there's two components. One is the geothermal system itself, and another component would be the signage, like alerting the public. The building has to be open to the public, which I would assume town hall. You said town hall,
Yeah,
right?
it is
Yeah.
town hall. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's open to the public, and you just have to have a sign about geothermal, what it is and why folks should consider it. That being said, so you could totally get credit, Michelle, but also,
Okay.
if you do actions in the program, like before the geothermal system is installed or is purchased, or you could use any grants you earn. And now there's a lot of grants available to pay for that geothermal system. So any grants, like all those grants that Liz was going through, like 100,000, 200,000, those can all be used for projects in your municipalities related to clean energy. They're no match. They're pretty easy reporting. They've gotten rid of the reporting requirements for any grants under 30,000. So you can really and contracting. So there's really great opportunities, I think, for municipalities to use these to further their clean energy goals. And then you can use those projects to get more points, to get more grants down the line. So it's meant to be additive.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Laura, were you next? Or maybe Mary was? And Liz, I'll let you answer. Start talking.
Mary O'Donnell from Saugerties. I have a specific question, and I apologize. I was on my phone and the audio was going in and out, so this may have been covered, but I have a specific question regarding the actions that are being eliminated, such as benchmarking and United Solar. So because they're eliminated, my understanding is that those points are withdrawn from the municipality. Okay, that's my question. What happens to those points now that those actions are eliminated?
So you retain those points. Everyone's points that were earned in the previous round of CEC, you're going to keep those amount. Nothing has been eliminated. The action has been. Benchmarking was that the other one that you had mentioned?
United Solar, and there were two others. I know Saugerties would have lost like 500 points. There were two others. I don't recall them at the moment. Remember United Solar, benchmarking. Hold on, maybe I have it over here.
So benchmarking, if you've done the resolution, that has just basically been combined with the actual benchmarking report action from before. So it was the resolution and then the reporting. They were two separate actions. Now you must complete both of them in order to get credit for benchmarking altogether. So that also hasn't been eliminated, but it's sort of been pulled into a different part. I know it's like a bit confusing because some of them also have different names, but a lot of the actions have stayed within the program. Unfortunately, Unified Solar Permit is not one. But if you completed that before, you shouldn't be worried because you have retained the points.
Okay, and for example, community solar. That was like 200 points.
Sorry, say that again?
Yeah, the community solar action has been, as I read it, was eliminated, but I know there's a new program coming in for community solar, correct?
Like a community solar subscription or community solar campaign?
Hold on, now my audio is gone again. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Community solar campaign or
Yeah, the campaign, right?
Campaign. So that is also still, because we didn't have a slide on it. Sorry about that. Community campaigns are still in action as well. Okay. So you can still do community solar campaigns, electric vehicle campaigns, and clean heating and cooling campaigns. Right. But because that had not changed and we had done a webinar about it over the summer, we assumed that, we probably don't need to talk about it again, but apologies if that was confusing. That is still a part of the program for sure. And all of the grants that are associated with it are still there.
Okay, good. And my other question is, why was the 4,000 points removed from the program? Because now, for example, Sorgady's got the 3,000 point grant, the $10,000. So now the community is no longer eligible to go for another one. So that now a community who has gotten the 3,000 points has to jump to a $5,000 point. And that seems to me as a big leap for a community. And I was wondering what was the rationale behind eliminating the smaller jump to 4,000 points?
I'm not sure if Eleanor has a better answer for this. My assumption is because they did it every, odd number of points, that's the reason why they eliminated the 4,000. It is really unfortunate that the communities that had hit 3,000 were really close to the 4,000, and we totally understand the frustration there. The hope is that because each action, the amount of points is larger, it should be easier to get to the 5,000, and also the size of the grant at the 5,000 point level is so much larger that really putting in that extra work to get another 1,000 points should make up for the loss. So hopefully that is a good answer for that.
Perfect, Liz. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay.
Yes, Mary, let's meet. I think we can get Socrates to 5,000. I just saw that climate smart application. I think you all can absolutely get there and get a lot more money than you would have gotten from the 4,000 grant, which was only 20,000. And now there's like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's a lot more money available at the 5,000 level. And frankly, in the Mid-Hudson, we were all out of the 4,000 and 5,000 point grants. So no one in our region was eligible for those. So there are a lot of communities that had reached those levels and didn't get anything in our region. But now, since they've opened it up statewide, there's a lot more opportunity available for our communities. So it's a good thing. I know it might feel, I totally understand why it feels frustrating, but I think we can get you there. I put my Calendly in the chat. So anyone who works with me, I work on essentially the west side of the river. Liz works on the east side of the river. So feel free to reach out to us.
Well, I do appreciate the explanation. I think that is helpful. And Eleanor, going back to your point for the 4,000 points, there was so little. Saugerties could have gotten there, but there were so few grants available that it just didn't seem like it would be achievable. So anyway, thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
Of course.
This is Laura from the Village of Cold Spring. Thanks for this. It's really exciting. And I have a similar question. By the time we hit, I guess 3,000 points, those grants were gone, and now we've moved past that. But will municipalities receive kind of retroactive if we didn't receive one at that designation? And how does that work? Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So any community that had reached one of those point level grants and then not received a grant, if you just do one more action, so it can be any action, if you just do one more, you will then be awarded that grant that you did not receive. But if you did, then you would not. Yeah. And you would get the larger grant size, which is even better. Okay, I see. Is it Karen?
Yes,
Okay.
it's me. Thank you. Question, and thank you for Eleanor for allowing me to be a pest throughout most of last year and asking all sorts of questions. And she has a remarkable level of patience. My question is, that won't get me any extra points, though. It's just a real fact. The conversion of streetlights to LEDs. My understanding is where I work, we have O&R. My understanding is that when a bulb fails, they replace it with an LED bulb. Would make sense. Do we get credit for that? Does that count? We have about 127 streetlights, and that doesn't include the decorative lighting, but we're looking at that as one of the possible actions. But it may be that O&R has already converted some of them to LEDs on their own.
Sorry, it took me a while to reach that unmute. Yes, Karen, you can, if O&R or if any utility has the threshold for LED streetlights is 50%. So if your utility has converted 50% of your streetlights to LED just through bulbs burning out over the last, since they've been converting to LEDs, then you are eligible for that action. You can also reach out to your utility and ask for two things. You could either ask to purchase your streetlights outright from the utility and then work with another company or do it yourself and convert them all yourself. That's usually expensive to do,
Yes.
but it has a good return on investment usually. Or you can reach out to your utility and ask them what the cost is if they replace all the bulbs with LEDs right now. And there usually is also a return on investment there because you save so much money when the bulbs are converted to LED on electricity costs, even though you're paying more upfront to replace them. So it's up to you what you want to do, but there's essentially three options: wait for them to convert them, purchase them from your utility, or ask your utility to convert them to LED for you. And the last two cost money.
Yeah, my question is, say we have 127 streetlights, and let's say they've converted 20 of them. Does that count toward us trying to reach 50%?
Yes.
Oh.
It would be whatever that you're 20% of the way or less than that. I'm not great with math on the fly, but they're half of the, as a percentage of the way there.
And what's the starting date for their conversion? Does it go back 2 years or 5 years or indefinitely?
You're asking me how long O&R has been converting to LEDs? That I don't know.
No, but if they converted, say, 5 years ago, would that count, or does it have to be within?
Yeah. Oh, there's no look back date for LED streetlights. None at all. I think that may be the only action.
So there's no start date.
No start date. Whenever you reach that 50% threshold, you can submit.
No, but if they converted it, say 5 years
Yeah.
ago, would that count?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Ciao.
Hi. Unified solar permit, that was passed in the very end of 2023, but it's not yet submitted.
Dang.
Too late.
Yeah. That stinks. I'm so sorry.
Bummer.
Yeah. We
Serves
didn't know
me
you were
right.
doing it. I was sort of like, Liz and I talked through like, oh, we don't know any, like we knew of a couple folks that were working on it and we like talked through like, should we reach out to them? But we didn't know you're working on it. I'm so sorry. Or maybe, I hope I didn't know and forgot.
No, you didn't know.
Oh,
Bummer. All right. Well, at least it works for CSC.
yes. Yep. And really, if you're feeling bummed, reach out to me and Liz. Let's do that. I think there's probably easy ways to get credit. Like that CDG subscription, the community solar subscription, that's going to be like, it will save your municipality money and it will get you 200 points. That's the same as the unified solar permit, right? You would have gotten, so that's a really simple thing to do. Also, the municipal fleet inventory is a really simple thing to do. So we could probably get you to the level of getting a grant, no matter who you are. Any other questions? I'm having a hard time believing. I've been getting so many questions via email. I know Liz has too. Oh, sorry. Shrira, do you want to? I didn't see your hand. Go right ahead.
I'm calling or joining from Rochester, New York. So thanks for your leadership for your own region, bring this information to all the municipalities. But I'm assuming that the NYSERDA coordinators that work in the Western New York, Central New York, would also be the source to pursue in these projects. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think most of the regions are doing their own outreach. Let me pull up. It's a guy named Rob in Rochester. He's great.
Yeah.
So
we'll reach out to these folks for sure and mention this webinar that you have done. At least the information is out. This is a great time. New year just started, and all the new programs, they can really help a lot of small communities. My question is, this grants that you are showing up to 200, 300,000, when is it disbursed to the community? Cash flow is always an issue. They want to do good stuff, but somebody has to fund all the planning and engineering and all other stuff. when do they get paid for this money?
Yep, I thought I put a response to that in the chat. I'm sorry if I didn't. Yeah, the grants, most of the grants now under $30,000 are going to be direct to voucher grants. Not all of them, there's a couple exceptions. So there's no contract, there's no reporting. They essentially, once they approve your grant application, they send you a check, which is great. That's a new thing. So that will help a lot of municipalities out, I know. The other grants, the grants over 30,000 and the other couple do have a contract and reporting requirements. So those ones are on a reimbursement basis. They're not entirely reimbursement. What they do is they provide 25% of the money when you complete the first milestone. And so for projects, like a geothermal project, that's when you get your engineering study done. They'll give you 25% of the money. And then they give you the other 75% of the money when the project has been completed. So and that's pretty standard for state grants. The reimbursement level, and most municipalities are able to at least that I've worked with are able to manage that. Once they get under contract for a grant, they're pretty comfortable spending the money.
Okay, thank you.
This is Jim Hayes again from Tuxedo Park. I don't seem to have a hand raised on the bottom of my screen, but I had just one more question, Eleanor. Is it possible to get a PowerPoint presentation of the slides in this session?
Yes, we'll send out the slides and the recording.
Great.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep. Excellent. Well, oh, Kate.
So my question's a little unusual. I've been promoting these kind of build ready initiatives for a while, and we have a new building coming, but we can't get it open to the public. And Eleanor, you may have heard me say this, but I'm going to just ask again. The public is going into it, but it is a morgue. So I was told absolutely not. No kiosk. I tried to say one side kiosk, talk about renewable energy, the other side, the back for the other things, but those two uses are not compatible. So the true definition of a public first of all public buildings should really be open to the public, but throw COVID into that, I guess I'll stand down on that. But how does that work? Because I have a lot of cooling in that morgue that I would love to be clean. But I can't get anyone to work with me because it can't be open to the public on a regular basis. It's serving the taxpayer. The taxpayer is visiting, but not, on a for a happy reason.
Yeah.
Something to discuss. I figured I'd throw it out there, but
I don't have a great answer. Unfortunately, right? Like that's what they've determined is the requirement to get credit for.
But what is public? DMV?
Oh, it's open to the public. Let me look up.
Well, you don't have to look it up now. We could talk about it. It's a broader answer. It is a public building. It's serving the public. It's open to the public when there's a need to go there. You don't go to DMV unless you're renewing your license. So
totally.
It's an argument to be discussed.
But anyone can walk into the morgue. Is that what, like the lobby?
Anyone can walk into DMV, right? So we could talk about
that.
I would appreciate
but if they won't
that.
let you put the kiosk in, Kate, that's the requirement, right? It's not a kiosk. You don't need a kiosk, but you need some sort of signage describing the renewable energy.
And I feel like you said it almost when you brought it up today. You just put a sign outside. Is it just outside, like a lead building, or does it have to be inside hosting? Push this button to see how the electric works, or is it really just a sign? This building was built with so-and-so monies, and it is this. If it's outside, again, I don't want to take up everyone's time, but I would like to talk to you about that sooner than later.
No, outside is fine. It just has to be some sort of educational material. I have seen some folks like laminate an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper where they're not looking for thousands of dollars worth of
So we could do that outside. That means I'm not inviting people, but it comes down to the public. There will be an open door, but who's going there?
Yeah.
So if it's a matter of it unlocked, I'd like to talk to you about it later.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. See, has anyone not had their question answered in the chat? Liz and I have been trying to answer them as we see them. But did I miss any?
I have a different question.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it's related to the free energy study. And I'm wondering if we have some public housing and subsidized housing in Nyack. And I'm wondering whether that energy study could be used for either public or subsidized housing. The subsidized housing is owned by a private entity, but subsidized. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and we're exploring an energy study.
My understanding is it has to be a building that you have the ability to make changes in, right? So I do think it actually has to be owned by the municipality. Yeah, but maybe the public housing would count, right? Because that's a public corporation.
We do own some of those buildings, but there are others that are privately owned that I just wanted to see where the line was drawn. So that's really helpful.
Great. And I feel like I'm remembering another question about the studies that I didn't get a chance to answer. And it was about if you've already done benchmarking, how do you get credit? Now I can't find it. But the answer is you have to do the 2 most recent years for that building for all your buildings to get credit to get the free audit. So if you did benchmarking like 4 or 5 years ago, you're going to have to re-up and submit to NYSERDA the 2 most recent years. So that would be 2022 and 2023 to get credit to earn that free energy study.
Eleanor, we can switch off, give you a break for talking a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Kieran has a hand again?
Yeah, quick question. I fumbled around on the website as usual, but I can't find the application form. Well, we want to start the application for the designation. I understand it. There was a mention a few minutes ago about an application form.
To become sorry.
For the grant, Karen?
Yeah.
You can't, so that NYSERDA, you can't really start. We can send everyone the link where the grant application form lives. But you can't submit the grant application form until you've earned the grant. They'll send you a grant notification email when you've earned the grant. And that comes after you've submitted the actions and completed them and earned approval for the actions. So first you submit the action you've done, right? Like you submit 4 actions, you get $5,000. You submit the 4 actions, they approve the 4 actions, and then they send you a grant notification email, including the grant application workbook. But you can't submit that grant application workbook to them until you've earned a grant. That being said, it's on their website. Here, we'll put it in the chat now. The grant application.
Is there a form that we use to submit the 4 actions?
No. So that is going to be, it's sort of just triggered once you've completed the 4. They internally keep track of that, as well as with any kind of the point based. So like if you hit like 1,000 points or 3,000 points, NYSERDA will know that, and then they will send you a separate email that will say like, oh, you've reached that level, so now you can get this grant.
I'm confused. How do we notify you? Say we converted our streetlights 50%. How do we tell you we've done that?
We will definitely, have a conversation, like hopefully after this will sort of like, jumpstart a lot of meetings. And so we will keep track of your progress and, start to have maybe more frequent check-ins to see where your progress is going. And then once we've identified some actions that you're interested in doing or have done, then we can send you the documents that you'll need to fill out to submit to NYSERDA. Yeah.
I'm baffled. Let's say we convert streetlights. Do we send you a letter saying, here, we did this and here's the record from O&R? I'm used to submitting something to say, here, folks, we did this.
So there is a form that needs to be filled out for LED streetlights. Most of these actions will have forms, and they will specifically ask you like how many of this type of streetlight. So if you replace your Cobra heads, how many Cobra heads does the town own? How many have been converted to LEDs? And then it will calculate if you've hit the 50%. That's a form that can be accessed from the NYSERDA website, and we can also send you a copy of that.
So is there a separate form for each of the high impact actions?
Essentially, yes.
How do we get those?
also from the NYSERDA website, and we can also send them to you if you
Oh,
ask.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. All
Sorry,
right.
I
Thanks
got a
for
little
ending
confused by the
some of my
question.
confusion. It's just me, it's not you.
All good. Okay. I see Shriram has his hand up again.
Yeah, this question relates to the parks and facilities where communities have their own parks, but some of them do not have power service within the parks in many of these facilities. So do you support the idea of not grid connected, but solar powered facilities in these parks that can be rest areas, charging stations for bikes? We're looking at EV transportation, EV bikes or e-bikes being coming out with different companies. So people may be looking for using those bikes, but there are no facilities for having electricity so they can charge them. So if there is a project that includes those items that makes these parks kind of independent from having to have a powered electrical service, and utilities are not very fast in providing power lines, and they're pretty expensive. So there are systems that are self-sustaining based on solar. Are those type of projects encouraged under this program?
I would probably point you to the Climate Smart Communities program more than CEC. So that one is a bit more holistic. They look at the community level, doing sustainability work outside of the municipality. So there are some actions that are related more to like park management, bike share programs, walking and biking infrastructure. That's probably where that would fit in more than in clean energy communities. But we definitely encourage everyone to look into that more, because that is definitely important for making these big changes. Yeah.
You do have list of 10 action items. In any of them relates to this kind of project that can be done on parks for municipalities, towns, villages?
Yeah, so I can see if I can pull up some specific ones.
Well, I know there are charging stations for solar and those, but there could be solar power charging facilities in these parks and locations where there is no electric power, but they could enhance the experience of people and then educate and inform all the people who come to the park that renewable energy is a good idea, so they can go back to the town and say, why don't we do some of these projects?
For sure. Eleanor, I don't know if you have more information about answer this question.
I missed a little bit because I was answering questions in the chat, but the question is about solar powered charging stations and whether those are eligible for credit.
Let me open. The question basically relates to, these are small, they are being used in construction sites because a lot of times you're building something and you got to build, you need to get electrical service and a trailer and stuff so that contractors can use for communication. So there are mobile units that can produce power based on solar, wind, based on location, and then they provide the charging station and electrical service, lights and things, information. So those could be placed in these parks to make them with access to power, but solar power, not connected to the grid.
Yeah, there is no specific action for that. These actions are very specific, but you could get credit for a solar installation, or you could get credit for a charging station, or as you're building something. But you're right. Liz is correct. There's nothing directly related to this. And I think she was also right to point you to the Climate Smart Communities program, because that's a much more broader program. This is very focused on specific actions, not like not necessarily thinking outside the box, although some of them are unique and you can think outside the box. So that program has 120 something actions, 115. So much broader.
Okay.
And there's also like an open-ended, like innovative actions that what you're describing would probably fall under. Sorry if you said that, Liz. Who's next? Bob?
Thank you. So two quick questions. One has to do with the energy code trainings. And Liz partially answered this earlier in the chat, but this is sort of the one element that you have you can get points for where you may be actually subject to turnover in personnel, right? So you may have had somebody trained and then that individual then left the job and did something else, or you may actually have somebody who comes in who's already trained. In our case, we had a training. We had 200 points. I'm now seeing that it's 300 points, I think was what was put up there. And I wonder if we have a new person coming in and that person is trained, do we then get the additional 100 points? How does that work? That's one question. So I'll pause on that one.
So now I'm understanding the question a bit more that you had asked. So if you had previously gotten credit for the energy enforcement code training with a different officer, you have already submitted for it, you would not be able to get credit again for like it's only one per municipality per officer. But
after January 26th, like between 2020, between
Yeah,
2021 and now, if you have submitted and gotten credit for it, you
Yeah,
can
thank
again.
you. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And if it was and I'm not sure the dates, so if it was before that and a new employee comes in and that employee gets trained, would we then get the additional 100 points, I suppose?
You would be getting 300 actually.
300. Oh,
Mhm.
interesting. Okay. And then the other question I had, sort of similar in that it's really about accounting. For the CCA programs, the CCA contracts expire and then a new CCA opportunity comes up. If you've already gotten CCA points in the past, but your municipality then ups for a new contract, how does that come into play?
So I believe if you get your contract renewed sometime within the year of 2023, I could be getting the dates wrong, then you can resubmit for the action. And they've also, I think that this was mentioned during the presentation, but if you get up to the 100% renewable, then you can get the 50 to 100 and then also the 100. So that has been changed from before as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Okay, Laura, I think you have your hand up.
Thanks. I have two questions. One about the energy audits. Would those also cover different kinds of municipal buildings like a water plant or a wastewater plant? Or is it just traditional kind of building insulation energy audits?
That's a great question. I think based on the fact that it has to be a building that can be benchmark, it has to be a traditional building, but no.
No, so my understanding, and we haven't tested this in the Mid-Hudson, but I know a community near Albany did this. They tried to get their wastewater treatment plant. They wanted to know what more information about how to make their wastewater treatment plant more energy efficient. This study covers the building, like the building envelope and the HVAC. It doesn't cover the wastewater treatment equipment. So you're welcome to get your wastewater treatment plants done through the study, but it's not going to cover the wastewater treatment itself, like what the building is meant to do. It covers the bit like the building envelope and how to make the building itself more efficient.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And then I guess my other question is, this is a lot more, frankly, it's a lot more funding for clean energy than it's on a scale that I haven't thought through of like, what can we do with it? And so is that also something that you all can help us with, is figuring out, the kind of projects to spend it?
Yeah, definitely. That's why
Okay.
we're here to talk through some ideas. And the great part about working with so many communities is you're also very creative and innovative. So we can also share what other communities are doing, and hopefully that helps drive you to take on those projects as well. Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Okay. I think back to Kate.
Thank you. Kate Schmidt here again from Orange County. So the county doesn't own its roads. Well, it doesn't illuminate the roads it owns. So most of the points we've gotten, and from the beginning, we have pushed this envelope about their parking lot lights, their internal roadways that lead up to big buildings. Has that changed at all for the LED lights that, we're still changing out bulbs, like Karen said, or something? It's still taking lights out of commission. Why just roadways and not parking lots or internal roadways?
I don't know why, Kate, but that's what we got. I can't tell you why. But I will say they did try, like after, I think a lot of counties were really frustrated with the original leadership round. And that's why they did create that county hosted training action, because to give you all the opportunity to get the extra 1,000 points that you're not able to get because of the streetlights and a couple other things, right? Like code enforcement.
Yep.
I know it's frustrating. Not all actions apply to all folks, unfortunately. Anybody else? Might be coming to an end.
I'll just
Oh.
spoil the ending and just one, thank you both for your help. You've been great. And the other, I have to say there's $25 million, and that seems like a lot of money. And we've been in a position where we've qualified for grant funding, but the funding has dried up. And we are planning implementation to try to maximize our grant potential and get to the 9,000 points. And if we qualify, we'll get like $750,000. There's 25 million. We're a small community. I'm sure there's a lot of large communities out there. It seems like this money is going to be accessed very quickly. And it's not really a question, but I thought, is there a way to kind of, comment on that? Like, what kind of timeframes are we looking at in order to try, in order to get the points in place, do the various actions that are necessary to get the points in place, but then be able to actually get the grant money that we're striving for?
Yeah, no, I think moving as quickly as you can is, if you're interested in receiving, especially those higher point ones, moving as quickly as you can is a good idea. That being said, I think what I'm mostly not worried about, but I have a feeling the Mid-Hudson is going to take a lot of this $25 million. We are the most active region. We ran out of grant money very quickly, and there are other regions of the state that never even basically touched their grant money. So we are in a good place, and I think our municipalities are in a good place to earn this money. That being said, I wouldn't rest on our laurels and not do anything for 6 months. If you're interested in getting these grants and you're interested in getting the higher level grants, I would really start working on it as soon as you can. Yeah.
Well, you could do.
I have no idea. I have no idea how long it could last. 6 months, or it could last the full 2 years. That's the other thing to note. This program ends. They need to spend the 25 million by the end of 2025. That's their goal. And ideally before that, like they would love to run out of, NYSERDA would love to run out of money earlier, because that means they've, done their job and the municipalities are working hard on clean energy projects. So the faster the better in my mind, but also a lot of you are volunteers, right? You do this in your free time. So you're not going to receive pressure from me or Liz. We're not going to pressure you, but if you do want the big grants, then moving quickly is a good idea.
Well, if we have anything to say about it, they'll run out of money within the next 6 months. That's our plan at least.
All right, very nice. Charlotte, that's a great question. Charlotte asked in the chat, will you be reporting on how much is left? I don't know. We have asked NYSERDA that, like, are they going to be able to keep a tally? Internally, I know they have a tally, but they haven't. And in the past, they reported on when the grants were divided up regionally, there was like a remaining grants tracker that each region could see how many grants they had left. So I don't know. They haven't rebuilt that in any way for this round. So we'll, if Liz and my emails get more urgent sounding, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully they will give us some idea. Mary?
Yeah, just a quick one. How can we, as representatives of the municipalities, advocate for additional funding and aspects of the program that would make it less onerous or make it easier for municipalities to access the grants?
That's a good question. You know, I will say this, you know, the CEC coordinators as a group, we have weekly meetings with NYSERDA, and we are always advocating on behalf of the municipalities and making things less onerous. We're not always successful because clearly the programs are still onerous in some ways. But you know, all of my colleagues are, you know, our colleagues statewide do that, and we do that on a regular basis. And we do the same with the climate smart program as much as we can. We consider ourselves your advocates, right? But there are email addresses that you can reach out to, right? Like the CEC program has the CEC email address. So if you are frustrated with the program and you want, or you have ideas to make it better, you're welcome to reach out to that email address. They do look through that inbox. And if there's specific frustrations that you would like me or Liz to, me for you, Mary, because you're in Socrates, to relay to NYSERDA, I'm happy to do that, and we have ways to do that. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Mhm. I keep thinking we're coming to the end, and then someone pops in. Well, we'll stay as long as you guys want us to, but also
Eleanor, as long as there's nobody else asking urgent questions, I thought I'd ask this one. So Joe Montori from Sustainable Putnam. So not representing any particular municipality, but as you know, we like to work with municipalities and help them in any way we can. And in the past, that's been pretty much for us working on community campaigns. I'm just wondering with this new round, if you see any other potential for an organization like ours working with either villages, towns, or at the county level. Thanks.
That's a great question. I don't know, Liz, if you have any ideas, feel free to jump in. Maybe like if municipalities are like, if they're lacking volunteer power but they want to do things, right? Like the fleet inventory, or, also Joe, signing municipal accounts up for community solar. They can get credit for that now through CDG subscription. So those are two things that are like volunteer hours, or like something that I know you're personally an expert in, that communities could use help with. Any other ideas, Liz?
I think generally just maybe helping them with some of the documentation. I know like sometimes that can take a while to get put together, but going and helping them out in person or online, I don't know.
Thanks.
And that's also our job, right? So like we have a lot of we have like 202 that we divide up pretty evenly. So if there are partner organizations, like we work closely with Sustainable Putnam and Sustainable Westchester and others, but if there are organizations that can assist in depth, I think it's always really helpful. But also folks should ask us for help if they need it, Liz and I directly. Karen.
Last question for me. If you can send us the link to the so we don't have to fumble around on the NYSERDA website, which is quite large and complex. Just a link to the forms for each of the, I guess there's one link where we can then fish around and get the forms for the high impact actions.
Yes. And for future reference, it's called the toolkits. The toolkits on NYSERDA's CEC website is where all of the forms live. But also, like, if you email me and say, I need this form, I could, like, Liz and I will send it over. And, like, you know, if it's during business hours and we're not in the meeting, within, like, you know, 10 or 15 minutes, we have them all, like, top of hand. But they just redesigned this website, and it's trickier to navigate for me now too. But let me put the link in the chat, but it's the toolkits.
Yes, you're very efficient. Thanks.
Kate, were you up?
Again, just because we're here, could you elaborate on the heavy duty and the light duty trucks, the whole category? Could you give a little bit more detail about that, please?
You mean what qualifies for what?
Yes, and examples.
Yep, let me pull up. Give me 1 second. Okay, so light duty electric vehicles are class 1 and 2. My understanding is that is like anything under an F-250. So like an F-150 counts as a light duty vehicle. And all cars and, like, you know, little SUVs, like, or any SUV, right? When it gets into the 250, like F-250, any snowplow, and, like, you can't, I've had this conversation with so many of you, you can't put, like, a municipal plow on an F-150, right? So all of those plows are going to be heavy duty vehicles, medium and heavy duty vehicles, class 3 through 8.
So then what about the off-road?
Yes, so the off-road vehicles. So in the certification form, and actually I haven't dealt with this yet, but maybe we can look at it together. I'll share my screen. They got specific vehicles. I could find it. They got specific vehicles. I'm gonna pull it up and share my screen.
Like, are we talking golf carts, landscaping?
Yep. No. There's a
farm.
Getting there. Okay. Screen 2. Okay, so this is what the certification form looks like for clean fleets. And you see at the bottom, if you can see, there's 4 tabs. Start here, so you would fill out the certification. And then there's EVs, charging station, and non-road vehicles. And you would say light duty, and then these are the 3 things that are eligible under light duty: an ATV, UTV, forklift, or snowmobiles. And then if you say medium, heavy duty non-road vehicles, these are all the things that are eligible under medium or heavy duty non-road vehicles. This is the only place this list exists, is in these drop-down menus. So we should actually, Liz, you and I should, like, put that somewhere, maybe in the cheat sheet. Yes, so I don't think there's many. I know I think Lewisboro, right? Bob, you guys were thinking about a heavy duty, like a grader or something, or an excavator?
Yes, we were thinking about a vehicle. I think Dan is on the call. He's a little closer to that. Maybe he can elaborate.
Yeah, we actually, there wasn't anything in the sort of pickup truck area that was available to meet our needs, but I explored the possibility of a street sweeper, actually, because I knew we had it on our capital list, and that was looking kind of fun, except it turned out that the electric models were just way too, even with the available grants and things, were just way too expensive. So we kind of dropped that idea. So nothing in the works at the moment.
Yeah, I'm hoping, I mean, this is that these new grants from CEC, right? A lot of them are going to be used for the heavy duty vehicles, because we have not seen a lot of heavy duty EV adoption yet. And I think because of the prices are really high still. So I'm hoping this will allow municipalities to move more in that direction, because it's like the more folks who move in that direction, eventually the cheaper they'll get.
And I just want to add that we are hosting an EV training event happening or later this spring. I think the dates are going to be sometime mid-April. We're still figuring out all of the details, but please be on the lookout for that. And we'll be having a webinar on this training in mid-February as well. And so the training is going to be geared towards your municipal mechanics who might be working on these types of electric vehicles, light and heavy duty. So it's to help prep for that transition as well.
So,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
So just, my hand was up, but just as related to what we were just discussing on the municipal fleet inventory, which is this new item. To be clear, does it? It's the municipal clean fleet inventory. Does
Poorly
that
named? No,
I
it's
was
just a
gonna say,
fleet
does it-
inventory.
So it doesn't imply that you have to have it's just a question of really documenting what your existing vehicles are. Is that all it is?
Yeah, in preparation for a clean fleet of
Right.
down the line. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
but you're not, in other words, on this, you're not committing to moving to that next step.
No, nope.
That sounds like a real easy one. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Alice.
Hi, I'm so grateful to be here. Thanks so much for all this information. I want to speak to the inventory, the energy audit that actually the energy audit that is now available free. In the town of Dryden in the southern tier region near Ithaca, we did pay for an energy audit. And what we learned from doing that is that, and sort of as a word of caution for folks who might be considering that, is that a level 1 ASHRAE energy audit doesn't not necessarily give the information necessary for doing a good clean building upgrade. For example, in our case, our 3,600 square foot DPW office building was our target, and we had in mind electrification and envelope sealing. Our energy audit indicated both of those required further study after the energy audit. So I'm only bothering to comment because it sounds like folks are going to now get these for free, and it will be important to find out what's covered. And we found that if we had been a little clearer in stating our goals for upgrading the building, we might have had them better addressed in our energy audit.
Yeah, thank you, Alice. I think a lot of our communities have seen that too, right? Like they are looking to electrify buildings, and this is not an investment grade audit, right? It's pretty high level. They will tell you the things that you can do and the potential payback period and the potential cost of doing those measures, but and the potential energy savings. But it is not, I think, oftentimes what needs to happen for municipalities to move forward is actually getting a geothermal, like if you want to do geothermal or air source, getting a contractor in and having them do a study. And oftentimes those are free, or like if the municipality is going to be doing down, like it's the first step, right? But I think municipalities have thought about these audits, and I have thought about these audits as being like the first step, and then you're going to be like on your way towards clean. But it's really like a very broad overview of your building and how to potential ways to improve it. It's not going to give you all the answers you need. Thank you, Alice, for pointing that out. It's a good point.
And if I could just add, Eleanor, when you brought up the wastewater treatment plant, some of the criteria for the benchmarking is it 10,000 square feet? It was. Now it may be 1,000. And one of the arguments I made that we needed to include the wastewater treatment plant was because it is the largest load on the county level. So of course, I've been benchmarking that since 2013 or something. So to hear now that the energy audit wouldn't cover that, you know, you have to shake my head and say, well, this is the spot it should be targeting. So hopefully next round, please include all of my comments, which will be many, as usual. Thank you.
Yeah, no, totally. Absolutely. I do think that, you know, wastewater treatment upgrades really require like an engineering study, right? I think that's pretty, because wastewater treatment equipment is like a whole nother ballgame than just like HVAC and regular building upgrades. So I think that's why they're not necessarily included the way that they might be like other buildings. Yes. Oh, Liz, you're up, actually. Any other questions? Did we answer them all?
Yeah. So on the energy audits we've just been discussing, which category is this falling under? Is this under benchmarking or clean energy upgrades?
The audit that we've been discussing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new action. It gets you 0 points, but it is a free audit under benchmarking. So you complete the benchmarking advanced reporting action, and that's slightly different than the benchmarking free CEC energy study action, because benchmarking is 2 years, basically any point in the past, and the CEC energy study, to get that free study, you need to do the 2 most recent years. That's the difference. So you have to basically submit 2 actions to get the free energy study, even if it's the same 2 years you're submitting of benchmarking.
And is that only available to DACs, to disadvantaged communities, as a free, or is it available to anybody, any muni?
Any municipality.
And then the last question on this, is there a list of qualified providers that you have to work with to do that energy study?
It is NYSERDA sends an auditor to you. They have a contract with one auditing firm, and that auditor does all the audits.
Got it. So that's their FlexTech Lite program, basically.
Yes, essentially. Yep. He's one guy. He says that the Mid-Hudson has been keeping him very busy with audits.
No doubt. Yes, I think I know who the gentleman is. Yes. Thank you.
And just on the audit point, if it is the flex tech studies as well, though, like people could, you know, this is outside of CEC, of course, but people could apply for an energy audit on their own accord as well for a municipal building or something like that as well, to kind of inform actions that they could take that would eventually be available for points and or grants. So
Totally. Thank you, Lauren. And actually that brings me, there's previously, you know, there's a bunch of pre-approved grant options. When you do get a CEC grant, you can spend it on a variety of things, and it like solar, charging station, electric vehicles, LED, converting your LED streetlights. Like there's like a list of them, and they've added FlexTech as an option. So you can cover, like FlexTech is another NYSERDA program, like Lauren mentioned, to get an energy audit, but there's a 50% match. And now essentially you can use your CEC grant to cover that 50% match for FlexTech. So if you want a bigger energy audit, you want a more in detail, like an engineering study, that kind of thing, you can also use your CEC grants to do those.
I was not aware of that. That's great. That's great news.
Yeah, I keep forgetting. All right. I'm glad we left so much time for questions. This was great. Any others before we leave? Not seeing any. We're going to send out the recording. We'll also send out our Calendlies in that email, so you can just make a meeting with me or Liz. Oh, Kate, another question. Yeah.
Well, can you elaborate the clean energy networks? I've been doing the thermal networks. I've been participating in those webinars. You know, this is the city of Troy. These are large areas of large municipalities. Is this something that smaller municipalities can really do? And if it's the case, is it Orange County? Is it our government complex? You know, with maybe 2 buildings, with a courthouse? How realistic are you helping the Village of Hastings? You know, like what could we really do to achieve that goal, or is that targeted for the larger entities?
I mean, I think it makes the most sense for the large cities, frankly, but it is, I think and this is a pretty new technology in the United States, thermal energy networks, right? Like they've only really been tested in my understanding is like Northern Europe and like there's
Sweden.
some, yeah, right, Sweden
Scandinavian countries.
and some like campuses too, right? Like in the United States, I think we have like college campuses that, but it's for a municipality to retrofit a bunch of buildings to be part of a thermal energy network. My understanding is it's pretty new, sort of like exciting stuff. I could be wrong about that. Bob was shaking his head.
I
Am I
think it
wrong, Bob?
is. It is exciting. It's just not many municipal governments ever have an opportunity to say, let's start fresh with a new government complex or college campus. So they're going to piecemeal it, right? This building's going to get the new energy system this year. Next decade, we're going to go here. So it's hard for us to start fresh at such a scale.
Yeah.
It's not entirely new. Yes, it's becoming a little bit more mainstream, but campuses have been doing it for many years. You'll find if you look around the city of Toronto, you'll find several of these actually. What I would suggest if you're really interested in diving deeper on that, go to the New York Geo website. It's the New York State Trade Association for the Geothermal Association. And you'll find lots of really great information on this, on the topic.
Thank you, Bob.
Sure.
Yeah, so I recommend doing what Bob said. I would not consider myself an expert on this. I've been trying to learn. I've been attending some of those charrettes as well. But I think attending those charrettes is a good first step if you are remotely interested in this. And I think asking some geothermal professionals, right? Like in that trade association, if this is a feasible option for your campus is probably a good second or third step, just because I don't really have a good sense. It seems to me to make the most sense in like where there's a lot of load in a small area, right? Because the longer you build those pipes, the more expensive it gets. But what do I know?
So there's no minimum square footage or number of buildings as per the state?
Good question. Let me,
because again, a lot of, I'm saying Hastings again, but villages and towns, they'll have their DPW. They'll put the snow shed there, which doesn't do much. They'll put the Humane Society there. They'll put their storage, maybe their mechanical garage there. Does that qualify?
It might, Kate, and we can look into this further, but I think this would be a huge expense on the municipality's part for like
Correct.
2 or 3 buildings. So I don't know that a lot of folks would do it for us. Like it has to, like my understanding is for it to make sense, it has to be a pretty big, like you want it to be bigger so it covers more. And the whole idea is you're not drilling the geothermal loops in 20 buildings 20 times, right? You're drilling it once and just building pipes into 20 locations and directing the load at different times of day when those buildings are using energy. And you have loads that work at different times of day, right? Like one is a school and one is a hospital and one is maybe like something that works overnight, like a factory. So they all need energy at different times of day. So they can
good
use
for urban applications, like you're saying, closer.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
perhaps.
But this is like you could get a master's or like a PhD on this. It's still like, I don't know. There's a lot to unpack here that I think
the one thing I'll toss in on this, Kate, is that if you mentioned the morgue earlier, I believe, right, which has big cooling loads. If there's another building adjacent to it nearby that has more heating loads, you have a perfect situation because now you're getting into what's called load balancing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Lauren just put some links in the chat, including there are projects or feasibility studies that are being worked on in New York State. New York is pushing these hard. So and so you can take a look at what's happening in the state around these. All right. Well, next Thursday, we're going to have our office hours. Feel free to come to that. Feel free to use our calendars to sign up for an individual one-on-one meeting with me and Liz. We're looking forward to you all getting a lot of money.
Just clarity, the office hours are, it's a drop-in webinar?
Drop in Thursdays at noon. It's going to be in Liz and the link will be in Liz and my signatures. We're going to be putting it in all our e-blasts that go out.
So
We're
you'll
starting,
send
we'll
that-
see how it happens. Yeah, and it'll
You'll
be in
send
the
that
link.
to us now, because okay, great.
Yep. Yep. We're going to try to see how it goes. If no one shows up, we'll probably cancel them, but at least for the next couple of months, we're going to try to do it.
And you know what? I'm going to say it. How does municipalities collaborate together and both get points? So I'm going to get off the phone. I'm going to reach out to Woodbury and say, how can we do this together? Will we both get points if we collaborate?
Depends. I mean, the easiest answer is with campaigns, right? Which I've been pushing already. And the answer to campaigns is absolutely. You will both get credit. You will both get credit. A county and a town or village within the county can both get credit for the same customers in a campaign. Same goes for a town and a village. If a person who gets heat pumps and both their town and they live in a town and a village and a county, they could be counted 3 times. If all 3 of those municipalities are doing an active campaign. As for the other things, they're mostly about like things that individual municipalities take, like installing solar. Like you can't both get credit for the same solar array. You can't both get credit for, I don't know, installing a charging station because one of you owns that charging station. So campaigns are really where the collaboration can shine. And that's why I've been pushing it. And we've got, I don't see too many folks from Ulster County. We've got a lot happening in Ulster County in terms of like campaign collaboration. Westchester County has been like rock stars on campaigns, mainly thanks to Sustainable Westchester doing so much to work on collaboration down there. So we've got a couple counties that are really doing a lot, collaborating a lot on their campaigns, and it's worked out really well for those groups. So I'm happy, Liz and I are happy to work with you, and we've been trying to push campaigns, as many of you know, from our constant emailing. Like, do you want to submit your scoping documents? Do a campaign. So
sorry, Eleanor, I want to jump in as
yeah,
well, but
please.
we're happy for sharing resources on what we've done to encourage. We definitely encourage collaboration between the municipalities for campaigns, and we have a lot of resources on, marketing outreach and all that. And we're happy to share that, even if it's not necessarily, perfectly aligns to your county as well, just as like a model to work off of. And you see a lot of nearby communities and municipalities working together to do outreach events, and then those outreach events can be claimed as community participation multiple times as well. So obviously the numbers still have to be within the relevant zip code for the projects, but the engagement aspect of it can be really aligned, I think.
Thank you, Lauren.
Here's a new one for me, Eleanor. What happens if I want to partner with Stephen from Sullivan or Rich from Rockland? How does that work? 2 counties, 3 counties?
You can't get credit for the same campaign customer, but you can absolutely, like,
efforts.
Yeah, efforts, totally. I mean, if you want to host an event that is hosted by 2 counties and it's, promoting electric vehicle ownership in both counties, that could be used for your proof of municipal participation in the campaign. That would be fine.
I have a quick question now that we're talking about town and village. In the past, my town wasn't approachable for our climate smart situations, but now we have a new supervisor. I'm actually good friends with her. So I'm hoping my link to that has been bridged, but so we're starting our campaigns, and I haven't I have no link yet for our town. Everything's been through our village. What happens if we have a customer that lives in town but doesn't fall under village? Would we get credit? I mean, I need to make that link, right? I need to now sign up my town for our campaigns.
Yep, submit scoping documents for the town. Yeah, that's what you
Okay.
need to do to get that customer credit. And the town, but so the town does the town cover the entire village? Like
It's the other way around. So
The
I'm pretty
village
sure
cover-
I'm not sure of our boundaries the best, to be honest with
Okay.
you.
I
I would
think
have to reach out
This
to you.
question can come from anyone else on this call except for you, because I do believe your boundaries are completely coterminous.
Oh, or see, you know that better than I.
Oh.
I'm not 100% on that.
Really?
I can reach out to the mayor.
They're
He'll get me that answer.
Yes. Yes, and you're going to see more of this, Eleanor, but that's what's happening. I'm hearing more and more about it. It's silliness. It's bureaucracy.
It's oh my God, it's just a waste of money.
It's a waste of money.
So you have two governments for the same place? Or essentially the same place?
Essentially, yeah. Like our town covers one library, but not the other. It covers the animal shelter, but not the DPW. It covers the police, but not the fire department. It's just mind-boggling. Nobody knows what to do.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it makes sense to submit scoping documents for both, because then you can just,
I don't have to
assign
worry about it.
customers to certain places. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Kate, do you still have is that an old hand?
It's an old hand. Thank you.
All right. I'm afraid to start wrapping up for the fifth time. But it looks like folks are heading
Well,
out. Oh, go
Will
ahead.
you
Kate.
circulate information on the New York Green Bank project that Liz mentioned? That was very quick and it's somewhat new. I don't know who it's targeted towards. It'd be great to learn more about that.
Green Bank. Yeah, totally. I can do that.
And the DAC map is always helpful for everyone.
You got it. We can include the disadvantaged community map in our email.
And Liz put in the chat the link to the Zoom, but not the invitation. Do we not have to register? That's going to be the Zoom every Thursday, because I'll put it in the calendar recurring if that's the case.
Yep, that's how we set it up. All right. We will hopefully talk to all of you soon. Looking forward to working with you all to get this done. Have a great rest of your week. Happy New Year. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so much as always, Eleanor and Liz. You both are rock stars. All right. Take care.
As are
everyone.
you, Lauren. Bye, everybody.